Sometimes when police officers, detectives, or FBI agents have no leads, their cases go cold, meaning that they stop looking for whatever they were originally looking for. And in today's video, we will be going over 5 missing person cases that have gone cold. If you like these kind of videos and you want to see more videos like this channel is for you. We go over supernatural, paranormal, and all that kind of stuff. And with that being said, we have reached the shade hour. On December 10th of 1978, Mary Stewart and her daughters Jessie and Fanny set out from their homes in Honeydew, California. They planned to run routine errands that day, like pick up groceries, get their TV repaired, and visit the eye doctor. When all three failed to return to their home that evening, one of Mary's close friends grew worried and contacted authorities to report them missing. Investigators reached out to TV repair shops and optometry offices in the area to see if anyone recalled the family stopping by, and none of them confirmed seeing them. Nearly a month went by and people still had no answers. Then their car was discovered alongside an abandoned logging road, only a short distance from their home. Inside the car, detectives found grocery bags and a television that had clearly been fixed, showing they have completed at least part of their to-do list that day. They also spotted damages. The fuel line had been snapped, which may have left the car unable to run. Despite the troubling discovery, there were no clues pointing to a struggle, a crime, or anything to clearly explain what happened. There was also no trace of the family. Suspicion eventually landed on Byron McGray Stewart, Mary's husband and the father of the 2 girls. He was known for having a violent temper and a record of aggressive behavior. Still, law enforcement could not gather enough proof to connect him directly to their disappearance. After that, the case was then revisited again back in 2009, but even decades later, the mystery has never been solved. Mary, Fanny, and Jessie Stewart remain missing to this day, and no evidence has surfaced revealing their fate. Lisanne Froon went on a daytime hike on the El Pianista Trail outside Boquete, Panama. The 2 friends were staying in the region to help out at a community school and immerse themselves in the Spanish language. When they were told their volunteer work wouldn't begin for another week, they took the opportunity to adventure into the mountains and explore the area. They never came back. Once authorities were notified, volunteer rescue teams and organized search groups trekked through the jungles and trails, but no signs of the women were found. Weeks turned into months and hope began to fade. 2 months after they vanished, disturbing discovery surfaced. Part of Lisanne's remains, her left foot, were recovered inside her hiking boot, swerved at the ankle. Later, Chris's pelvis was located, fractured cleanly into 2 large pieces. The mountain community also eventually turned up Lisanne's backpack. Inside were deeply personal items, their phones, undergarments, some cash, and a Canon digital camera. The camera held a series of eerie photographs, many captured in the dark of night and timestamped about a week after their disappearance. Images that raised more questions than answers. Investigators were able to trace their final known movements. Earlier that day, the pair had stopped to ask a local inn owner how to navigate the trail. Hours later, they were reportedly seen again, this time asking for guidance on how to get back toward the town. After that brief moment, they were never spotted again. To this day, there is no clear explanation of what happened in those mountains. With little evidence and no witnesses beyond that last encounter, Chris and Lisanne's fate remain one of Panama's most haunting, unsolved disappearances. Jody Houston Truitt was a familiar face on Mason City, Iowa's local TV screens as the morning news host of KIMT TV. She delivered the daily headlines and weather updates to countless viewers. On June 27, 1995, her normal routine was interrupted. When Jody didn't show up for her early broadcast, and a newsroom producer phoned her. Sounding shaking and stressed, she explained she had slept through her alarm and promised she was on her way. But as time passed, a second call went unanswered. Jody never arrived at the station that day. Concern quickly turned to alarm. Her co-workers called police to check on her at home, and when officers reached the parking lot near the studio, they uncovered several unusual items on the ground beside a red Mazda. Hairspray, a blow dryer, and one of Jody's red shoes. The scene also pointed to a possible fight or a forced encounter. The car keys was misshapen and handprints were visible on the vehicle as if someone had pushed against or struggled on the door. As investigators searched for answers, an even stranger detail emerged. Private Detective Steve Ridge later disclosed that the red Mazda was not technically owned by Jody at the time she went missing. She intended to purchase the vehicle and had been planning the deal, but the transaction was never finalized before she vanished. After Jody's disappearance, her mother eventually bought the red vehicle herself. Despite years of investigations, searches, and public attention, no confirmed suspect has ever been charged. Jody's whereabouts remain unknown, and the events that summer morning are still unexplained. Because Jody was well known locally, speculation spread fast. One theory that gained traction involved a new relationship she may have just begun. One even her closest circle might have not yet been aware of. Ridge didn't believe the man she was seeing had anything to do with the disappearance. However, he did consider another possibility, that someone else, perhaps an obsessive viewer or a secret admirer, had learned she was dating, felt resentment or jealousy, and used that as a reason to act, potentially leading her to being taken against her will. Even decades later, the truth behind Jody's disappearance remains one of the Midwest's most puzzling, unsolved mysteries. On the evening of February 9th, 1989, 20-year-old Tiffany Sessions stepped out of her home in Gainesville, Florida, for a casual walk around 6 p.m. It was an ordinary part of her daily routine, but unlike every time before, she never came back. No confirmed sightings, phone calls, or messages from her followed. More than 3 decades have passed and there's still never been a trace of her, living or otherwise. As the years went on, one name surfaced repeatedly in connection to her case: Paul Rouse, a man later convicted in other violent crimes involving assault, rape, and murder. In 2013, investigators reviewing archived evidence received a package of his personal items. Inside the box was a dark-colored notebook that became a major point of interest. The journal contained mentions of 2 women, Linda Frieda and Elizabeth Foster, both of whom Paul had previously been associated with her harming or killing. More chilling still was a separate page in the notebook, one that simply displayed the date 2/9/89, written with the number 2 scribbled on the reverse side of the paper. Some investigators believe that was more than a coincidence, pointing out the date that matched the day Tiffany vanished, and that the repeated number might suggest a sequence, probably indicating that she was another victim of chains of crimes, perhaps even the second. Law enforcement, however, didn't connect Paul Rouse to Tiffany's disappearance until after his death in 2013, leaving any chance of direct answers from him forever out of reach. Even now, Tiffany Sessions remains missing. Her case, one of Florida's most heartbreaking and enduring open investigations, with the final truth still locked in silence. In April of 2001, 20-year-old Branson Perry was at home in Skidmore, Missouri, working alongside a close family acquaintance. His father had recently been hospitalized, and the two were tidying up the property to make the house welcoming for his dad's expected return. At one point, Branson stepped outside and walked to the storage shed near the house to return a set of jumper cables. It should have been taken only a moment, but he was never seen again. He didn't take his wallet, clothes, phone, or even his vehicle. Everything he owned, including his car, stayed exactly where it was, untouched. Authorities investigated several possible explanations, but none led to solid answers. One of the lead officers later suggested that the possibility that Branson may have been taken because something connected to illegal substances, possibly a targeted abduction linked to underground activity. Still, no official suspect has ever been named. Years passed with no trace of him, and his family was forced to prepare for a painful uncertainty. In 2012, his stepfather arranged for a burial plot in Branson's name, a symbolic gesture of love and grieving without closure. A headstone was placed engraved with his full name, yet the grave beneath it remains empty, never having held anyone at all. Branson Perry's disappearance remains one of Missouri's most haunting missing person mysteries, with no clear resolution, even decades later.